everybody. Welcome to Slogan's Rock and Metal Extravaganza. We're here to talk today about Cinderella's Still Climbing and Tangier's Four Winds, as picked by our special guest, first time on the channel here, is John the Music Nut. And joining us again is Danny Alcana. And Logan's having some difficulties right now. He'll be joining in when he can, but he'll try to stay in the chat at least. So, John, you want to start us off since you're the new special guest to the channel?
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to meet you, Danny.
Pleasure to meet you, John.
Thank you so much. And Cindy, great to see you again, and Logan as well. All right. So, Still Climbing. Now, this came out in November of 1994. I bought this as a new release, and we were going 4 years in between albums, which was an eternity at this point. In the meantime, Tom Kiefer had to have surgery on his vocal cords. Now, when you listen to this album now, and I didn't notice this back in the day, you can tell his voice didn't quite have that strength anymore. It had about 90% of it. He wasn't going into those crazy screams like he used to go into on the first three albums, but he still sounds very good. What he's doing more on here, he's doing more of a speak song kind of thing. He's going into his normal voice, speaking voice more than he is in his singing voice. At times, a lot of times he goes in several times. He will do this in the same song throughout the album. So on this album, you had Tom Kiefer on lead and backing vocals, electric, acoustic, and slide guitar. If you go on Wikipedia, it'll say he played piano, but if you look at the liner notes, it doesn't list him on piano, which is a little weird. Eric Brittingham on bass, Jeff LaBar on lead and rhythm guitars. Now, at this point, they're a trio. Kenny Aronoff is playing drums on here on all the tracks except for Hot and Bothered. When I first heard this album, I didn't notice the difference in the drumming, but as I've listened to so much music over the years, now I'm like, I hear this, I'm like, that's Kenny Aronoff. That's that style. He had this way of hitting his snare drum that was different than anybody else out there. If you listen to the way he drums on here, you're like, oh yeah, this is that great drummer who played on all those awesome John Cougar Mellencamp albums. And he did a lot of other albums as well. He did a lot of session work, but where you really heard Kenny Aronoff's drumming is on those John Cougar Mellencamp albums that really sold, like Scarecrow, Lonesome Jubilee, Big Daddy, etc. So he plays all the drums on here except for on Hot and Bothered, and that's Fred Corey, who is their regular drummer, and he did all the tours with the band too. Other guests on here, we have John Purdell on Hammond B3, piano, percussion, and backing vocals. We have Jay Davidson on tenor and baritone sax. Steve Jankowski on trumpet and trombonium. I'm not sure the difference between trombonium and trombone.
I don't know.
Rosanna McNamara on fiddle and violin. Gary Corbett on keyboards. Backing vocals, Annette Hardiman, Charlene Holloway, Luana Norman, Carla Benson, and Yvette Benton. A couple of those names you will hear later. Produced by Dwayne Barron, I hope I said that right, John Purdell, and Tom Kiefer himself. So, you go into this album. It's a continuation of the sound that you had on Heartbreak Station. Okay? They weren't paying attention to their musical trends at this point. Now, again, I mentioned 4 years in between albums. This kind of music wasn't getting played on the radio at the time this album came out. I bought this within the first few weeks it came out. But at this time in late 1994, you're hearing Stone Temple Pilots. You're hearing Pearl Jam. You're hearing Alice in Chains. You're hearing Bush, to name a few of those kind of bands. So sadly, you weren't going to hear this on the radio. And it's a shame that, this sound went out of vogue, because the best of this kind of sound really shine through, and it still sounds so great today. And I think this is one of those great unsung albums. Not too many people bought it, but those of us who did really appreciate it. Now we go into the tracks. Bad Attitude Shuffle sounds like a old record playing in the background, and then you have Eric's bass coming in there, and then you got Tom coming in there with like he's like the speak song vocals. He's singing, he's speaking it almost like sounds a little more country, and then he goes into that scream, and then you hear Kenny's drums kick in, and then they go into that groove, and that groove kicks ass. One thing about Aerosmith, I'm sorry. One thing about Cinderella, all their albums start out hot. They always had a banger at the beginning.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. This is very strong. We got some great call and response during the choruses. You do notice that Tom doesn't quite have that same range, but he still sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a track lyrically. It's a track of rebellion. It's very strong. It kicks ass. Great way to start the album. All goes down. We got those horns coming in. It's got a different kind of feel. We got a nice chorus on here. We got those great backing vocals on the choruses. A little more call and response with Tom and the backing vocals, which is very cool. It's got a great feel. One thing I could say about Cinderella. First album, they sounded a little more Aerosmith.
Oh, yeah.
Winter forward, Stones. This sounds more Stones. But Cinderella make their music their own. Nice track. Talk is Cheap. Got that bass line kicking in again. And now he comes to horns, which is bringing in a lot of drama. Now here, Tom is singing more with a desperate feel. You got that nice pre-chorus going into that chorus. The chorus is pretty simple. The horns really provide a lot of color on this. This is very cool. Great guitar solo on here too. I'm thinking Tom's playing the lead guitar on here. Tom usually took the lead on the guitar solos. This is very cool. Hard to find the words. Tom wrote this for his mother, who had passed on in between albums, and it's a beautiful song for a beautiful tribute to his mom. It is wonderful. It is a wonderful chorus on here. The backing vocals on here have a gospel feel. It adds so much to this sound in this song. Very strong lyrically, musically. Again, Tom is in the verses. He's playing it straight in his normal speaking voice, but it's got a little more twang in his voice, right? And then he gets more emotional in the pre-chorus and the chorus. Great bridge on here after the first solo.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fade out is really cool. Those guitar lines from Tom, very strong at the end. Excellent song right here. Blood for a Stone. We're starting out with that keyboard coming in, and it's bringing in a lot of drama. And then that guitar line comes in. To me, this sounds like they're trying to find our inner Robin Trower, because it definitely has that kind of sound with the way Tom is playing here with the guitar lines. This song rocks like hell. This has the keyboards bringing in some drama on here, but this rocks like hell. And it's got a very cool chorus on here. One of their best hard rocking tracks, in my opinion, is Blood from a Stone. Still Climbing starts with that march beat. And we got that searing guitar line coming up from the ashes. And then the other guitar kicks in. And then you hear Tom with the vocal. Again, he's doing it, playing it more straight, not going into those screams yet. But he's going to go into that when we go into the pre-chorus, and then the piano comes in during the pre-chorus. Mm-hmm. And it sounds very strong. It complements the song perfectly. That chorus, simple yet effective. I'll be climbing for the rest of my life. Awesome. It's the way you gotta live. And that's the way Tom approaches life, in my opinion. I love it. I love the bridge on here as well. This is one of the best songs on the album. Freewheeling. Not to be confused with Bachman Turner Overdrive's Freewheeling, which was an instrumental, but it's very fast paced. It's heavier, very driving. It's wicked. It rolls like a train. That's what you want for a song called Freewheeling. It's comes in and comes out. Kicks your ass. Through the Rain. We got another ballad on here. I don't think this works as well as Hard to Find the Words. The first time I heard this song, I was like, that piano sounds very familiar. It sounds like Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Air Supply, which was written by Jim Steinman. And I've never been able to get past that in the last 30 years. Even though the song is well written, there is a nice chorus in it. It's that piano line that's just too much Air Supply for me. And it's well sung by Tom, of course. Easy Come, Easy Go. You hear that beginning? That's as heavy as Cinderella would ever get. It's almost grunge-like in a way it starts out. And we're going to revisit that sound in the song later on. This is pretty cool. Nice chorus on it. It's a decent album track. I don't think it shines like a lot of the other songs on here. Then we have The Road Still Long, which to me should have ended the album. It plays like a closer. It's very whimsical, a coming of age song. When I was young, I thought I knew everything and I didn't know shit. But he sings it a lot. He sings
like Logan.
But
that makes four of us.
but that's the theme of the song. And very well done. Love the guitar lines on here. The lead lines on here are very lyrical and very memorable. The backing vocals add a lot to it as well. As a proper closer, I think it works really well. But what they did was they closed the album with Hot and Bothered, which was originally on the Wayne's World soundtrack. I didn't think a lot of that song back in the day, and I still don't. It's okay. I think it even made the greatest hits albums, but I think
probably.
I'm sorry?
Probably, because it was sort of a hit on the Wayne's World soundtrack.
It was, because that got played more than anything else on this album. And I can tell you that straight out because I lived it. It's decent, and you have Fred on drums here. You can really notice the difference between Fred and Kenny. It's a decent hard rock song. The chorus is all right, but I mean, even though the album doesn't end very strong, I still think there's a lot to love on this album. I give this an 8 out of 10. I think the only thing that hurt this album.
It hurt you.
It hurt me. It hurt me because nobody bought it except for me. I probably bought the only copy at the Gallery of Sound in Dallas, Pennsylvania. But the only thing that hurt it was just the timing. 4 years was an eternity back then. Now 4 years between albums is no big deal. It's common now, and the fact that the musical landscape had changed. But I'll tell you what, if you only know this band for their greatest hits, definitely check this album out. It has a lot to offer. You don't judge an album by how popular it is. It's what it means to you.
Exactly.
And this album means a lot to me. I think it kicks butt. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Great breakdown there, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go right to Danny, who wanted to give a shout out to some people that he knows actually.
Yeah, I want to say a nice shout out to my buddy Johnny and my two buddies in Australia, Vaz and Darren. Aussie.
Nice.
Okay, I had to throw that in. All right, that was a great review. I love that review a lot. I think I have pretty much many things that are similar. I'm gonna have to read mine. Forgive me. Uh, Bad Attitude. This song starts off. What a sound! With that 30s scratchy record sound. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the guitar comes in and building off the record and turns in kind of a bluesy shuffle. Voice comes in it, and it isn't Tom's high register voice. It's his normal singing voice. It's his normal singing voice. You call it speaking voice. It's his normal voice. He's not using his high register here. And you answered a lot of questions I had in my mind with a little history about this and his operation. Now we know why he didn't use his high register voice throughout the album like he always did. And I like it. I like his normal singing voice. Sounds good. So let's see. I thought the song was clever so far. The drums come in and all hell breaks loose. Backing up, Tom goes back up to the higher register vocals that we all know. It, when it comes to the solo, the song modulates a whole step up. Although I'm not a big fan of Tom's guitar soloing, uh, he does a very nice job. Really well done. This is a great rockin' tune. Boy, I should be using my glasses, guys.
That's all right.
Or I need something bigger to look at than my other phone. Uh, let's see. It all comes down. This song starts out sounding like "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks. It's got that kind of a guitar riff in the beginning, in the intro. When it breaks into the song, it's extremely reminiscent of early Aerosmith. And man, this song really freaking rocks. About midway, the dynamics are broken down. It must have been a hell of a concert song. I can just picture Tom hyping the audience in the soft in the softer part of the song. Uh, at the end of the song, it's repeating the chorus several times, and this one actually has that typical big concert ending. Another great song. Talk is cheap. This one opens up with a bar of a single note sequence synthesizer. Man, I was really enjoying where I thought this song was going to go. The verses are a bit dissonant, but it's still a likable tune. Here again, with the going down in dynamics about three quarters of the way through the song, they pull it down. They come back in with the chorus and ride it all the way to the end with fade out. Not my favorite, but it's a good song. Hard to find the words. This one opens up with an acoustic 12 string. I love, damn, they get a good 12 string sound. He always got, oh, I put it here, he always gets a great 12 string sound. You can tell right away this is going to be a slow tune, a bit bluesy with the slide guitar slightly reminiscent of Freebird. The singer starts off in the lower registers, which I really like. He's got a great voice in the lower registers. The second verse, the singer brings in his higher register, the one we all know, and so far, so good. The rest of the song is kind of rinse and repeat. Their harmonized bluesy solo at the end was done quite tastefully. There's really not much more about this song that hasn't been done 100 times before, but it is a good song, and I can't take anything away from it. Blood from a Stone. This one opens up with a growling B3. The guitar comes in with a great riff, and I'm really hoping this one delivers. I was excited about it. This one's rocking pretty good. The drummer is really hitting hard. It's a likable song. The choruses are fairly memorable. Once again, it has a nice breakdown about 3/4 of the way through the song. And I'm really liking the guitar nuances that are going on. This song fades out with in the chorus. For me, this song had some great parts, but one this one kind of laid there a little bit for me and didn't deliver. Still climbing. This title track starts off with military drum rudiments. Tom brings in a one-note solo on slide that sounds a bit haunting. This song keeps building and adding a clean underlying guitar slide guitar under what's already going on. The song breaks in with a cool guitar riff. Tom breaks into the verse in his lower register. This would be a great soundtrack in a movie, I put. It's a great soundtrack song. It's very sparse at this moment, and any music producer would love to have this in a song. The second verse, Tom brings it up a notch with his higher register, and oddly enough, brings in a piano playing basic chords. The song has a great vibe, and as I've already mentioned, would work really well in a movie. Nice, tasty slide solo in the middle. This chorus is very memorable. I'm liking it. The song fades out with the chorus with underlying slide going on in the background. The song ends with just vocals and harmonies. I'm climbing. Let's see. I'll be climbing for the rest of my life. Oh, that's what they sing at the very end. I'll be climbing for the rest of my life. I love that part. Great song. This one for me was a bit of an earworm. This one, it took a minute or two to get it out of my head because I really liked it. Freewheeling. This song breaks in with just guitar and drums, and it's fast. I only wish the guitar would have been a bit bigger sounding. This song reminds me a bit of a slower version of Fireball by Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Only not as memorable. The choruses are very reminiscent of Deep Purple's Speed King. The very last 2 or 3 lines, Speed King, almost identical. I would imagine they must have listened a little bit to Deep Purple. It's a great rock song. This must have been a great song in concert. Through the Rain. The intro starts off with piano, soon accompanied by clean guitar run through Leslie, or a chorus effect for the first verse. Tom's voice is sitting out there naked with only the piano and guitar underneath. I believe it's the second verse, the bass comes in, and then the drums. Nicely done. Very catchy chorus and lyric. Sometimes the sun shines through the rain. I think we can all relate to that. This is a nice ballad. Everyone knows I'm not a fan of ballads with Tom singing especially in his higher registers, sounding like Axl Rose or Brian Johnson. Very, very nicely done bridge before the solo. In my opinion, this is one of Tom's best guitar solos. It's melodic and tells a great story. Good lyrics and well produced, good melody, great song. I don't say that too much about ballads, rock ballads that much. Easy come, easy go. The song did have a lot of songs on it. This album did, didn't it? Drummer starts this one off with the cowbell groove. At very first listen, I was going, "Uh-oh, we're an American band. It's going to start." It's very reminiscent of that tune. Great drum groove. and all hell breaks loose when the guitar comes in. Holy shit, this song sounds like Aerosmith. This song is rocking. Great vocal line, and all the guys are killing it. The verses are great and memorable, and the guitar and the chorus is a freaking killer. Could this be my all-time favorite Cinderella song? 3/4 of the way, they break it down again. This is kind of a repeating theme for this album. Maybe giving his voice, I don't know, voice arrest, or maybe they just decided to bring the dynamics down. But it was really a nice change for these guys. 3/4 of the way through, they bring it down, and 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 they use the chorus as the outro. I would have ended this song by coming back into the chorus, but this is the way they wrote it, and that's the way they did it. I love this freaking song. Great song. I loved it. The road is still long. This one starts off with acoustic guitar, soon to be followed by a clean electric guitar. It doesn't sound any. It does sound a little bit similar to. It gives a vibe of like Bon Jovi's "Dead or Alive." It has that kind of that country-ish feel to it. That also could have been a little movie track. The drums come in on the second verse, and now it's a slow but driving song. Very memorable verse and chorus. Once again, about 3/4 of the way through, they break it down with dynamics and highlighting Tom's beautiful 12-string for a couple of bars. Then the drums bring it back in. Tom throws on a lazy, haunting slide guitar solo, which goes into the fade out ending. Great tune. Oh, great tone on the guitar, by the way. It was a good song. I liked it. Hot and Bothered. I put, ooh, this one starts off sounding almost like AC/DC. Actually, the first verse sounds very much like AC/DC. They bring in a Hammond B3 in the chorus, which is cool, but without it, the average listener might think this is like an AC/DC song that never made it to an AC/DC album. This is a great simple rocker, I put. The solo comes in and Tom delivers a fun, simple rock and roll solo. Once again, they bring it down about 3/4 of the way through the song and bring it back in with the chorus. And Tom takes an outro solo with the fading chorus. Great song, fun song. I think this would be a great song to take a nice fast drive. That's my take on the album. You know, I was talking to Sid a little bit before the show. And, these are my first listens for Cinderella. I and I gotta say, I haven't heard the first album, but this is my favorite album. I like this better than the second album. I like this. I just like the approach. It's honest. Sounds honest. It's not overproduced. The songs seem to be more cohesive. I like this album. I would buy this album for me and listen and put it on my listen list. Absolutely.
Nice.
Oh, thank you, Logan. I'm going to give this a 8.75.
Nice. Perfect.
Nice.
Great job, Danny.
Thank
Nice.
you, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Glad you liked it. So now
Yeah.
we'll try to get over to Logan and
Yeah, we'll go to the lagger.
see how it goes.
All right. Well, if it's working right now with the four of us on here, then
Yeah, you're good.
I'll try.
You're good right now.
Okay. Yeah, great points from John and Danny both about this album. I didn't hear John's starting. I don't know if you went into the charts at all, but I wrote down
I did
some of
not.
the charts. Okay.
There's
I
no
did not.
charts to
I
go in.
talked about who played on the album.
Well, okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I
There's
didn't
no
write
real-
much of that.
There's no real charts to go into. It didn't
Well,
really
I got the number one.
I
I got the number 178 on the Billboard 200. Come on now.
Well, it was on for 1 week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's-
there's that.
Or was that just a joke? Is that true?
It's true.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's pretty good compared to some of these bands. I mean, who put out albums and stuff. But yeah, I looked and seen it got up the UK albums charts at 88, and Japan and Switzerland it actually charted higher at 34 and 29 in those countries. Which again, I said something about that last week with Heartbreak Station. It did really good there in those two countries. So it's interesting. I brought up Kiefer losing his voice during the sessions of making the album, so that kind of derailed it for a little bit. You know, and the musical tide shifting in the years gone by and stuff kind of probably didn't help them, I guess is the best way to say it. And I read Eric Brittingham talked about the band planned to make a music video for the album, but MTV stated they stopped playing their style of music. So there's that, you know, just the way because of how they looked on the first album, they just get judged and lumped into the glam metal category. When Cinderella really isn't even that, you know,
No.
at all, really. But
point.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yep. And I wrote down the low sales of the band, or the low sales of this album made the band disband for a little while after the release of the album. But they got back together in '96, so they weren't about '95. They didn't do anything. And I mentioned, like John said, about Kenny Aronoff being on this, you know, album, and he does a great job. And I'm a big fan of Mellencamp, so when you brought that up, I love that. But
Nice.
yeah, I'll get into the tracks then. Pretty much about the same thing for Bad Attitude Shuffle. Starts with that phonograph record playing, kind of jazz. Kind of bleeds into that main guitar riff, the blues riff. Tom's vocal work going from the softer stuff to the harsher vocal. Probably, I read too, it was a little bit difficult for him to write some of the stuff on this album because his voice kept changing throughout the session. So he was kind of at a loss to figure out what keys to use and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this tune's a great blues rocker. And I think Tom's singing about self-confidence and, you know, you don't believe in his way of living, you know, just keep it to yourself. Kind of says it all in the chorus, you know. The great lead guitar break with some awesome rhythm section work. I think Kenny even does some double bass on here, which is kind of, you know, different for him, especially, you know, if you're going off the Mellencamp stuff. But Kenny's done everything under the sun. So then there's like a jazz breakdown, and I wrote down Tom really lets it loose towards the end with the F-bombs and the repeating of the chorus. I mean, he goes crazy. He like, especially in the leads. I mean, it's kind of hidden because you can't hear all of it, but you know, it's a great kickoff track from these guys. And like John said, you know, they're great at starting albums. So, you know, we'll get to All Comes Down. Track, I think the opening riff to this one sounds like Led Zeppelin a little bit. It's got like a rock and roll style riff for the verses. Horns from the previous album make a return in this tune. Kind of same lyrical vein as the previous track. Just stick to the fight no matter what. There's a nice break section in the middle, kind of utilizing both the horns and the guitars. Love the solo on this song. And like I've mentioned in past episodes about this series, they do a great Cinderella breakdown, is what I wrote down. Tom trades off some vocal lines with the guitars, and backing vocalists really shine on this one. Yeah. And I think maybe Labar and Kiefer kind of trade off a little bit. I could be wrong. I think John's right. I think Kiefer does the main solos a lot of the times, but I think the faster kind of stuff is Labar, because I think he was more of a, not shredder, but, you know, more like speedier. Because I think Tom does all the slide work and all that kind of stuff and the bluesier lines. But we'll get to, I love how that song fades right into Talk is Cheap too, with that synth droning note. And yeah, this track goes all the way back to the guys' pre-Night Songs days in '85. This one in Freewheeling, which you can find both demos are on YouTube. It's pretty cool. And there's footage of them playing Talk is Cheap in '87. So It's a little
Oh, wow.
different. Yeah, it's a little faster. It's kind of more like what you would think it would sound on Night Songs.
Yeah, it's not going to
Uh,
sound the same in '94 as it would
yeah.
in '85, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
going to sound
Yep.
completely
Yeah,
different.
it's definitely darker and heavier on this album compared to the live version. I like the way Tom delivers the vocals in this tune. Sounds so like he sounds angry at somebody. Just pissed off, kind of. Hook in the song is probably one of my favorites off the album. Kind of just relatable to anyone who's ever had somebody lie on them or something, lie to them. The fast lead guitar work. And like I said about the past track, I think maybe it's more Labar on this one. Um, but I think this might be the one they could have made a video for. Maybe I don't know if that's the one they were talking about, or maybe it was one of the ballads. But I think it's a great tune, and I'm glad it ended up on a studio album at the end of the day, because that's what 9 years in between writing the song, and that's pretty crazy. But we'll get to the first ballad on here. Hard to Find the Words, which, like John said, he wrote it for his mom, Adrian. Very unique way of writing a ballad. I don't think I know another one that is written for a parent like this. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do, and I just don't know it. But it's kind of different. Um, Slide guitar intro really sounds inspired from Freebird, like Danny said. Totally caught on that. Really enjoyed Tom's vocals on this track. Kind of sounded like two different singers at times on this tune, from the verses and the chorus. I like the female backing vocals. Almost give this track like a gospel feel almost.
Yeah.
Which I remember saying one of the tracks on Heartbreak Station kind of has that feel too. It's got some nice unison leads and some cool drum fills on the fade. Like John mentioned, I love that high note, or that high little lead line they do towards the end. And then Tom plays Amazing Grace on the guitar, which in the liner notes he gives that tribute to Adrian. He doesn't really it just says Amazing Grace for in memory of. So yeah, it's a great ballad that you can tell, was written and sung from the heart for his mom. Then we get to one of my favorites, man. I love Blood from a Stone. Right off the bat with that swirling Hammond B3 organ and the light little cymbal, notes, and then that main riff comes in. Yeah, it's just a highlight for me. Some great wah wah guitar follows it up before the verse starts up. Tom gives a great vocal on this song. Love the chorus in this tune, which I think kind of Tom, maybe, I don't know, because I don't think he's ever really talked about this song. But maybe he's like expressing his disdain from like the music industry at the time, because you listen to like some of the lyrics there. What can't take the boy from the city, but what is it? I can't remember. I got it wrote down. They can't take the city from the boys looking pretty. Now he's looking like a pity. Cut the flesh down to the bone, and you can't get blood from a stone. Kind of sounds like he's talking about them making them conform to what was popular, and he didn't really want to do that, But he keeps the spirit up and always staying confident and resilient. And it's another winner to me on this album. Yeah, and I love the lead guitar work at the end of the song with the repeat of the chorus. So yeah, it's one of my favorites, I would say. Then we get to the title track. Get that low tone synth note before a drum cadence from Kenny starts up and some high note slide guitar. Then another guitar adds in, really gives it like an epic dramatic feel. Love when the song breaks into the main groove and the verses start up with the guitars doing a little call and response riff with Tom's vocals. And I mentioned here the main theme of a lot of the songs on this album kind of seems like self-confidence in himself, believe in yourself kind of deal. And I don't think no other song on this album really shows that, than this great chorus that we've all said. So I might as well say it too. I'll be climbing for the rest of my life. This killer, man. I love the little slide breaks on the second verse. Really fills up space nicely in the song. Another song, I have to give it up for the backing vocalists. They really do a great job on this one. Love the little slide break we get in the bridge section. Goes in that great chorus again, and some great slide towards the end, and then it ends in that a cappella, singing the chorus line, which breaks right into Freewheeling, man. And just like earlier on this album, this tune starts up with no break, killer snare drum fill. It kicks off a great fast-paced hard rocker. Like I mentioned, it's written around the same time as Talk Is Cheap. kind of has a similar vibe to Hell on Wheels from that album to me, which I didn't really like too much. I kind of like this song. I think this one would have fitted better, personally. I know they're not really much different. They're both about 2.5 minutes and change. But yeah, I like that double bass groove. There's some double bass in this one too. Kenny's really showing off some skill on this album, man. Really like that slide solo section that goes into another solo. Fast paced rock and roll. I mean, that's all I gotta say about that one. Then we get to Through the Rain, which I think I like this one a little bit more than you guys. But it kind of does remind someone of Don't Know What You Got a little bit, maybe a little bit too much. I didn't even think about Air Supply. It was good, John. He gets an emotional vocal here. Strong chorus on this one that goes in that great piano line. Tom and the backing vocalists give a great performance. Like the horns in the background. Yeah, I think there might be some strings on this song, but I can't tell. I don't think there's any credited. So maybe it's on a synth, but like towards the end, I like that how it like builds up. It's like ascending, but it fades out before anything really happens. So yeah, it's an okay track. It's probably not one of my favorites, but we'll get to Easy Come, Easy Go now, which is, I wrote down first note of my notes here, the obligatory cowbell tune on this album. They got to have one on every album. But yeah, it's got like a Page style guitar riff to kick this track off. It turns into a very Rolling Stone style rocker. I really hear Heartbreak Station in this tune. I think there was a song that was a leftover from those sessions. I think it could have been this one. It kind of sounds like it could have fit in. It's got a great sing-along chorus. I think it would have went down well in live shows. I'm not sure if they played this one. Probably not. I wouldn't think. But yeah, they really jam out on that intro riff for like the last minute or so. And Kenny's drum fills, man, that makes that section. I love that. He like switches the feel and the beats, and yeah, crazy. They could have jammed on that riff for a couple more minutes. I would have been okay with that. But we'll get to The Road Still Long now, which is kind of more acoustic blues with some added percussion and Tom singing solo. Pretty much what you guys said. The youngin thinks he knows everything. Yeah. I want to mention too the backing vocalist on this one, Luana Norman. I love that little Road Still Long she adds to the chorus. It brings like a haunting feel to it a little bit. Great slide solo break in the middle of this tune. Love that last minute and a half with the riff on the acoustic. Kind of reminds me of Zeppelin a little bit. Some more slide work goes into the fade, really ends it off nicely. Probably one of my favorites on here, and I definitely agree with what John said. They should have flipped this and Hot and Bothered. This should have been the last song on Cinderella's last album if this was going to be it, But yeah, I'll get into Hot and Bothered. Definitely hear the AC/DC thing, like Danny brought up. Song gets in the classic 3-chord style structure for the verses. Love the chorus on this one. Hammond really shows off throughout the chorus section. Nice lead guitar break. Kind of sounds like to me Jeff and Tom are both playing lead on this one. Follows with that. It goes back into the opening riff. And it goes back into another big Cinderella breakdown is what I wrote down on my notes. Builds up nicely right into the rocking chorus with some great leads backing it up. It's a fun way to end the album and cap off the band's career, as sad as that is. Kind of odd how that was. I wish they would have been more.
Well put, Logan.
4 great albums, man. But yeah, I just wish there was more. But I think they went out on a high note, really showing off their strengths from blues and to even like southern rock styles too. Just kind of a shame what happened to Tom's voice. It kind of derailed the band. And by the time they put this out, it just seems like most fans had moved on. Besides John the Music Nut people, he was there. But yeah, and I wrote down a little bit about the band. They continued to tour up until 2014, with their final performances being the Monsters of Rock cruises. And sadly, unfortunately, we've lost Jeff LaBar and touring keyboardist Gary Corbett, which is actually kind of strange because both of these guys passed away one day apart from each other.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Yep. But I'm going to cap off the album here. I'll give a rating. If you like the other 3 releases by this band, and you might have missed this one because of the year gap difference, or I'm sure it wasn't promoted too well.
No.
No, I think it's worth picking up, man. It's a great record. I mean, they didn't make a dud, I don't think. All 4 of them have stuff. Yeah, all 4 of them have stuff you can like. But I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. So
Very
Nice.
good.
All right. Cool.
All right, Sydney.
All right. So yeah, it's the same things that don't have much to add to what you've already said. But yeah, first I'm reading off my notes here. So yeah, Bad Attitude Shuffle, great opening song. This is basically their Lagrange by ZZ Top. That's how I kind of have that. That's
Nice.
the same. But that's been done. Everyone's used that. It's just a good bluesy boogie song, right? It's a driving upbeat blues rocker. Tom's voice really goes well with it. And yeah, and at the end, like Malokan mentioned, near the end, you can hear him dropping like F bombs. You can't really tell exactly what he's saying, but it's there. It's in the background. It's kind of funny. It's Bad Attitude Shuffle, right? So he's going off at the end. I don't know what he's saying. I'd like to look that up, but yeah, I don't know. There's lyrics to his F bombs in the background. And then yeah, it's just a fun, energetic song to start off the album. And then yeah, All Comes Down. Kind of sounds like a little bit like AC/DC, but with saxophone going on in the background. Then yeah, another great, fun, high energy song. Love this one as well. I love how the leads keep going at the end during the chorus after the guitar solo. So there's still leads going on while they're repeating the chorus, so it's not just the chorus. And then yeah, the drums on this song are thundering as well. And I love how the song ends and goes right into Talk Is Cheap, which is another great song. The riffs in the song give it kind of a dark feeling, which just kind of increases the appeal for me. It's a very dark sounding song. The guitar solo has almost a heavy metal sound to it. It's yeah, not too much blues to be found on this song. Just a heavy rock song that almost borders on metal, but yeah, just a fun song. And hard to find the words. Now I feel bad than knowing now what the song's about, but I didn't realize that it was about his mom. But yeah, again, I'm not a big ballad person. Depends on how it's done. But yeah, I love his voice at the beginning. I kind of wish he stayed singing with that voice throughout it. Yeah, it's kind of nice to hear that style of singing. Gets a break from like the really raunchy screaming voice. I probably would have enjoyed it more if he sang more with a soft voice. So it drags on a little bit to me, but it's not a bad song. But yeah, it's good to give him credit for writing something and being able to write something like that with that much meaning. I had no idea about the whole mother thing, but yeah, that's that. And then yeah, Blood from a Stone, great Hammond organ, like everyone said at the beginning, and really cool wah-wah riff that leads into the main verses. Overall, a great mid-tempo rocker with more fun guitar soloing and a simple, catchy chorus. The wah-wah also kind of gives it a very dark feel, like the riff in Talk Is Cheap did. Another great song. Then we get to Still Climbing. Yeah, it's a great title track. It's probably my favorite of every Cinderella title track. Then, yeah, more Hammond organ going on in the background, a very catchy chorus. Tom is still doing some more of those talk style vocals with his clean voice at the one part. I love how he does that here. And I love how the song ends with, like Logan said, the a cappella harmony vocals, singing I'll Be Climbing for the Rest of My Life, which flows right into Freewheelin'. And yeah, I love this song. Just a heavy, in-your-face, heavy metal song that just kind of makes me want to raise my fist in the air. Just probably the heaviest song they ever did. It's always actually been my favorite Cinderella song. And yeah, some cool slide guitar playing in the middle before like this really short kind of metallic solo. Just a classic song for me. In which they did more songs like this. Through the Rain, yeah, it's an okay ballad. I just like hard to find the words. I find it's hard for me to find the words to say much about it. Just kind of there. No, it doesn't really go anywhere for me. It's just yeah, I'm not big on the ballads. Then yeah, Easy Come goes right back up again to Easy Come, Easy Go. Just a fun, upbeat rock song with piano and saxophone in the background. I love the ending riff that the song fades out on. Just a good party song. Just yeah, very Aerosmith. Yeah, great high energy song. Road Still Climbing kind of reminds me of the title track a little bit. Not as memorable though for me. I just almost gets kind of the same feeling for me with that one. I don't know. And then Hot and Bothered. This was actually the first, funny enough, the first song I ever heard by Cinderella, and it's the last one on their last album. And mostly because of the Wayne's World soundtrack, though. Like I said, yeah, it came out earlier on the Wayne's World soundtrack. And when it comes to movie soundtracks, that's probably the soundtrack I've listened to the most out of any soundtrack. So I can sing. That's probably my second favorite song of theirs, following Freewheelin', because I've heard it so much. It's just a driving AC/DC style song. I can sing along to it because I know all the words to it. I can just great fun song and a great way to end the album for me. Overall, yeah, it's a very strong album and by far my favorite of them. I have no problem giving it a 9, even with the 3 songs I'm not that big on. So yeah, I'm giving it a 9. It's as close as they ever got to a perfect album for me.
Awesome.
Nice,
man.
Yeah,
we all agree on that. That's
a great one. So then yeah, so we'll go into wrong one. John the Music Nuts pick of Tangier. So he can start us off on that and maybe give a little history, considering there's a little Cinderella connection, which is, I'm sure, why you picked it. So.
Okay. Thanks, Sydney. Yeah, they both came from Philadelphia. Now, as far as the there you go. There's the logo. As far as the connection with Cinderella, one of the connections with Cinderella is the fact that Andy Johns produced and engineered this. Andy Johns co-wrote Hot and Bothered with Tom Kiefer. And if you don't know Andy Johns' work, or you don't think you know Andy Johns' work, you know his work. He produced albums by some bands that sound similar to Tangier, but back in the 70s. Like Free, Humble Pie, Wes Bruce and Lang, Hughes Thrall. He produced the first 2 Cinderella albums. He produced Van Halen's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. He produced, now this doesn't sound like the bands I discussed. He produced Television's Marquee Moon. And as far as an engineer, he's done a ton of albums for the Rolling Stones, for Led Zeppelin, for many, many other artists. So this was the only album that really got airplay for Tangier. This came out right around the same time that Not Still Climbing came out. It would have been 5 years earlier, actually, my mistake. But it came out in the fall of 89 instead of the fall of 94. Now, on this album, we have Bill Madison on lead vocals, Doug Gordon on guitar and backing vocals, Gary Nutt on bass and backing vocals, Gary Saint on guitars and backing vocals, Bobby Bender on drums. Also on the album, Frankie LaRocca on drums and percussion, Jerry Cohen on keyboards, John Avarice on piano, and we have Annette Hardiman and Charlene Holloway, who sang backing vocals on Cinderella Still Climbing. And we have Paula Holloway on backing vocals as well. So, who did Tangier sound like? What did they sound like? Bad Company. But not the Bad Company led by Brian Howe that came out at that time. Like the original Bad Company with Paul Rogers on lead vocals. They sound very similar to them, and maybe the grittier side of Foreigner, not the singles, but the grittier songs that were good deep tracks like Stranger in My Own House or Rev on a Red Line, songs like that. So this hit number 91 in the United States, and this was released on Atco Records. Let's get started. Ripcord. Now here you really hear the Bad Company influence with those ringing guitar lines complementing Bill's vocals. Doug's guitar style is very Mick Ralphs-like. And I say that with the highest praise because I think Mick Ralphs is a very underrated and rarely spoken about how great a guitar player is. He played for the song. And he did that in Mott the Hoople, and he did it in Bad Company. And Doug's doing it in this band as well. We got a nice bridge on here. We got a great chorus on here. Very strong opener. The jam during the fade out, where you get more of Doug Gordon's guitar goodness in there, really shines. This is a strong opener. Mississippi is very Foreigner, but again, deep cut Foreigner, not pop hooks Foreigner.
Rockin' Foreigner.
Rockin' Foreigner. Thank you, Danny. It's there is some nice keyboards on here, adding some color. There's a build in that chorus in the verse into that chorus where you hear that guitar line that really sings, really complimenting Bill's vocals on here. We got a nice solo on here that's equal lyrical and equal flashy from Doug. Doug's guitar work on here is strong throughout. On the Line was the single. That hit number 67 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's why I bought this album. That, and also they did an interview on a show called Rockline, which was a very popular show on your album-oriented rock stations back then. So I heard a lot of these songs on that show. It was on Rock 107 out of Scranton, Pennsylvania, still going strong to this day. Anyway, On the Line, very AOR, album-oriented rock. Yeah. Nice vocal melody on here, which really carries the song. And those verses building that chorus. That chorus is very, very strong. That's the hook on this song. And probably the best hook on the album, to be honest. Very nice harmonies in the chorus. This was a near hit. It was probably a top 5 AOR track. And yes, Sydney, I do live in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I've lived in Pennsylvania my whole life. So, so On the Line, very strong track on here. It was the correct choice as the first single. In Time, the guitar line on here is very cheery, very poppy, and it works well. The solo is very Mick Ralph's again. It's very lyrical. There is a decent bridge on this as well. It's got more of a pop feel. It's decent. Four Winds, that title track, it has this slow burn in the beginning. Very, very bluesy feel on this. And it just has that great build. We got nice solos on this as well. Very slow burn. It's like a slow blues, kind of like what Whitesnake would do at times. And I'm talking the earlier albums before they really broke through here in the United States. We get to side 2 on the cassette or on the vinyl back then. And you go into Fever for Gold, which starts out with this riff, which is very similar to Custard Pie by Led Zeppelin, opening track on Physical Graffiti. It has that kind of feel, but just at the beginning. Rest of the song, it's just a very nice rockin' track. The chorus, we got some nice call and response. When they say Fever for Gold, it sounds like they're saying more heave, ho. So Fever for Gold in the backing vocals.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And again, it sounds very Bad Company and it's in scope. Southbound Trade was the second single. You could see why. Great chorus on this. Very catchy. The keyboards are there for color. It does have a bit of a Foreigner feel. Sweet Surrender rocks very hard. It's a very fast shuffle. We got some great solos on here from Doug. This is a very strong track. One of the best songs on the album. The opening of Bad Girl reminds you of Lonely as the Night by Billy Squier.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a decent song musically. The lyrics a little cliched. The chorus is kind of middle of the road. There's a decent bridge. So that's pretty decent. Good Lovin', when I hear the guitar on that, it reminds me of an album that came out the year before, a song called Kissin' Kitty by the Bullet Boys on their self-titled debut. It has that same rhythm as Kissin' Kitty, but it doesn't have the personality of the charisma that song had. Mark Turing had a lot of personality. Geez, I wonder what it is about. But it's pretty cool. The call and response between Bill and the backing vocalist on here is very strong. This is a decent closer. I think this album peters a little bit out a little bit at the end, but if you like old school Bad Company, I wouldn't compare it much to Brian Howe Bad Company, because Brian Howe Bad Company, as good as it was, it had more of a pop sheen to it. And it doesn't have quite the hooks that the Bad Company single, the Brian Howe Bad Company singles had. And that's the one thing about Brian Howe Bad Company. Maybe the albums weren't great, but those singles sounded great because Brian Howe really had a great knack for a hook on those singles. But if you like Paul Rodgers Bad Company, I'm not saying this is as great as the best stuff that Paul Rodgers did with Bad Company. I mean, their first couple albums, I think, are classics. I would give this a 7 out of 10. There you go.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you.
Hey.
Nice.
Some cool information there that I didn't know. So yeah, that's cool. And that's cool that you're like, because you're basically hometown. Well, I don't know if they're the same city, but if you're from Philly, but yeah, like they're home state, right? It's your
okay. I'm about 2 hours north of Philadelphia.
Okay, so
I'm 2 out. Yeah, I'm 2 hours north, and Scranton, which I talked about with the Rock 107, they're about 40 minutes north of me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm a couple hours from Philly, but where I live is like night and day. Like where
you're
I
like
live,
your hometown band almost, right? Because they're from the same state, right? So it feels like they're
well,
these bands
we did definitely feel it a little bit with Cinderella.
Yeah, not so much Tangier. They weren't really around it long enough, right?
Well, just to give you some info here, and I'll put my mic back up here so you can hear me a little more clearly. Cinderella and Bon Jovi played 2 miles from where I grew up.
Oh wow!
On January 3rd, 1987. Okay. Cinderella opened for Bon Jovi. Bon Jovi were pushing Slippery When Wet, and Cinderella was pushing Night Songs. At the time they played in my area, Bon Jovi had the #1 album in the United States, and Cinderella had the #3 album in the United States. And Bon Jovi broke a lot faster than people thought. Like, they had the first 2 albums sold decent, but the third album, it was like they were on a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Because they were playing mid-sized venues, and I'll tell you straight out, the Kingston Armory held 5,500. It was too small. We were like sardines.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, like part of it had to do with the fact that Bon Jovi was from New Jersey, Cinderella was from Philly. But more of it had to do with the fact was that they were that hot in the States at the time.
Yeah.
Because that was when Living on a Prayer was #1.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably the biggest show that hit that smaller venue.
Yeah.
2 miles from where I grew up in Courtdale, Pennsylvania. So, but yeah, it was one of my first concerts.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
Yeah. So I got to see Cinderella on Night Songs and Long Cold Winter.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, that's nuts. 5,000 seat venue, and there's like one of the biggest. I can't imagine that.
Well, later on in the tour, they're playing the Spectrum, which in Philly, which is it's like 18,000 or 20,000,
yeah,
whatever it was at that point. I mean, yeah, their popularity was crazy. I mean, they got with Runaway from the first album. Bon Jovi were doing decent. 7,800 Fahrenheit, it kind of stalled out, but then when you give Love you give Love a Bad Name hit, you couldn't avoid that song for 6 months. And then Living on Prayer was bigger. Yeah. So, and the fact that they played our area when they were on, both of those bands were on fire. I mean, it was was
It's
pretty.
interesting to see those bands like right early on like that.
It was pretty cool. And that was when you think about it, I mean, that was definitely when Bon Jovi were at their hottest. I mean, because they sold several million records since then, but I mean, that was when they were at their peak. I mean, later on they played stadiums and all that, but it was near Beatlemania when they played that. It was pretty cool.
So no Lost Highway tour for you?
No, I have that CD.
I do too. I think I played it once and put it back on the shelf.
Yeah, but I mean, they were never one of my. I was definitely a bigger Cinderella guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cinderella albums, I bought all those when they came out.
Nice.
But they played 2 miles from where I grew up. It's pretty cool.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks.
Cool. So move it on to Danny now to talk some Tangier.
Yeah. Also my first time with this band, and I concur with John wholeheartedy. You got their basic musical approach is almost very Bad Company-ish. They just have that approach. It's also like, but the song structures are kind of like a Foreigner on steroids. I guess that's what comes to mind. They have a little bit of both. They wrote some hooky songs, but they rocked. They rocked a lot harder than Foreigner. They were heavier, way heavier. And as much as I love Lou Gramm, I mean, he's one of my all-time favorite singers. This singer's no slouch. I mean, he's got an amazing voice. This guy's got a David Coverdale, just on the same order as David Coverdale. He's got a great voice. So Ripcord, I still remember the chorus. I mean, they wrote some real memorable hooks. Ripcord. So I got right off the bat, this is a great sounding production. A beautiful hooky guitar line. These vocals came in, and the vocals come in and out, and they're very powerful. The bridge was really nice, and the chorus is very, very memorable. It's a great song. I mean, right off the gate, this is a great rockin' tune that it was an earworm. Ripcord. That's, I mean, you can't get rid of it for a while. It just sticks in your head. Excuse me. Mississippi. I put here the singer is a little reminiscent of David Coverdale in his day with Purple. Nice, sexy guitar tone and vibe in the guitar solo. If this song was a little slower, it'd remind me of Montrose's version of "Town Without Pity." I don't know if you. It's just got a sexy vibe to it. It's a great bluesy song with a sexy vibe, and you got the singer just kind of melting the microphone the whole time he's singing it. It's a great song. On the Line. This song drips with beautiful production, a pleasant echo on the vocals. Great vocal harmonies behind the main vocal in the chorus. Nice simple guitar solo with a harmony coming in on the second half of the solo. These first 3 songs are killer. I just love them. They're killer songs. The next song would be In Time. When it starts off, I'm expecting to hear AC/DC. I mean, it's very, very basic and rocking. Once it gets going, it sounds like a glamored up production of AC/DC. Another great song by these guys, and an extremely hooky chorus. These guys had a knack, and I'm assuming it's the singer. What's the singer's name? Mike?
Bill Mattson. Yeah.
Bill. Man, he was really good with writing memorable hooks. I mean, the guy was really good. So I wish they would have came out in like 81 or 82. These guys, I think, would have been massive. It's timing, guys. A lot of it's timing.
I agree with that.
Yep. Come out in the 90s with all the grunge going on. They didn't have a prayer, I don't think, with this album. But
Timing's everything.
they sure, yes, it means everything. They sure would have. This is a great band. Four Winds. This song starts off with a polished Mississippi blues slide guitar. It's a ballad. It's not really blues, but gives it a hint of it because of the slide continuing on through the song as it evolves. Another great chorus where they bring it to a peak and then bring it back down for the verses. Not my favorite song so far, but it's very well written. This chorus is very hooky, and the singer is singing his ass off. So, I mean, I just have, I hate to pause in between the songs, but I have a lot of respect for this band. I just wish they would have come out at a better time. They were good. All of them were good. All the players. Fantastic. Fever for Gold. This song has a little twang of Southern country rock to it. I remember that. This is another good song, but I prefer the style of the first three songs more. Great hook in the chorus. Again, every one of their choruses, you have to say, they're all hooky. I mean, they're unforgettable. They're memorable. Southbound Train. The intro and the verse of this sounds very reminiscent. Here you go. I got it in my notes of Bad Company. Great chorus. Not as hooky as the others. The verses are strong, and the singer is just kicking ass in the verses. Man, I love this song. That's my take on that one. Yeah, yes, I remember that. It's Bad Company to the Bone. The Sweet Surrender. The intro is reminiscent of Southern country rock, like a kind of a Leonard Skinner-ish. Comes to mind with the opening guitar riff. When the singer comes in, you know you're not listening to country rock because it kicks ass. This must have been a great concert song. Very up-tempo, just a total rocker. Once again, the chorus is very catchy and memorable. The guitar player does a great solo with double lead arpeggiations near the end of the solo. After the solo, they bring it down to a whisper. This is where this is where I can see the singer talking to the audience and hyping them up. You know, you having a good time tonight? What, you ready to rock? Yeah, this is great, just a great song. Yeah, I love that song. Bad Girl. I've had a few of those. The intro guitar was a little Zepp-like to me. It had a little bit of a Zepp touch to it. The verses, I'm not a real fan. I wasn't a real fan of. But once again, in the choruses, they put together that memorable hook that you just can't get out of your head. Good Lovin'. Good Lovin' Gone Bad. Anybody remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A great up-tempo rocker. These verses are fast and moving with a steady drum groove. Once again, during the choruses, they're memorable and hooky. After the guitar solo, they bring down the dynamics. Then they bring it back up and hit the chorus. Holy shit. All the way to the end. Great song. I guess that's it, isn't it? Man, like I said, this was a great album. I wish they would have came out in the early 80s. These guys would have been phenomenal. They had everything going for them. It was all right. Everything was Everything was good. It's like you said, timing's everything, John.
Yeah, it has a
And
very 70s vibe to it, but yet it's
oh,
89, so like
yeah, 78. Yes, you're right.
yeah,
Late 70s, early 80s. Shit, these guys were good, and they wrote some great. All the songs in the album were great. So, man, I have to give this. I give this a good 8.7. This is a
cool.
great album. I'm real sorry that they came out when this album came out when it did, because it deserves a lot more notice than it got. Yeah.
For sure. Oh yeah. So
Nice.
over to Logan. I clicked on that by mistake. Yeah, over to Logan.
All right, yeah, great points from both of you guys on this one. I'm new to this too. I think I told John that when he picked it last week. But I did. Just came in the mail today. So
Nice.
got it
Just
on
got-
physical.
There you go. Hold it up. You
Oh
got
yeah. Now we
got
got
the,
now we got to trade.
That's
CD.
fine.
John's got the cassette. Danny needs the
Oh, yeah.
8-track now, and we're all set to
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Well,
I
8-track at
mentioned that.
89.
Yeah.
I don't think so. There's
I
no
got
8.
all
I mentioned that.
right
I
there.
mentioned that in the chat. We all have it on 3 different formats. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I definitely hear the influence of all the bands you guys have talked about. Early Whitesnake, Bad Company, Foreigner, Rockin' Foreigner, like Danny said. I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll get into the songs. So Ripcord for me, I'm probably gonna get hated on here for this. I just don't think it's a great opener.
Okay.
Now, I told Sydney this during the middle of the week, but I've listened to it a couple more times. It's starting to grow on me a little bit more. But, not crazy about that little synth line. I know it's not much. That little synth line at the start, it sounds like 89 for sure. But, I like the melodic guitar line that, goes throughout the verses, before the verses and stuff. That's cool. This one could have been a single, I think. Has that kind of, I think this one kind of has a pop feel personally. It's not bad. I would have led the album off of Southbound Train though. Spoiler alert. That's probably my favorite song of this album, man. I love that song. But we'll get into that. But I think this vocalist, Bill Mattson, he kind of has, I know it's not completely, but he kind of does like not screaming, but he kind of has like the Graham Bonnet thing too to his voice a little bit. I hear that in some of it.
Maybe
Maybe
tone,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, probably the tone. That's what I'm hearing. But yeah, can't knock the musicianship though. Both solos in this song are very well executed. Yeah, it's an okay track. It'll grow on. Especially since I have the CD and I can play it whenever I want to. So, yeah.
Nice.
But we'll get into Mississippi now. Get more of a hard rock blues here style. I see so many people talk about with this band. Great melodic rocker in the verses. Really builds up for that chorus with the lyrics. Kind of dealing with missing home, kind of. I wrote down Ready and Willing Arrow Whitesnake in a track like this, kind of.
Yep.
Yeah, great musicianship throughout the track with the band really holding down a tight groove, and the solos in the song are really melodic and full of emotion.
Yeah,
they kind of show off some speedier styles too at the time for being 89. Probably trying to fit in a little bit in that kind of. I think this band's kind of like Cinderella, man. They kind of got lumped into that glam metal thing. They're not that at all. You know what I mean? Not really. I mean, they got their poppier moments, or like John said, AOR kind of. I'll get into On the Line here. Big hit for the band. It's got a nice melodic guitar blues line before another guitar joins in, playing a little lead line over the top before we break into the verses. I like the feeling of this track. Almost gives off like a haunting, kind of chilling vibe in the verses, and then that pre-chorus. Band help with some backup vocals before the song breaks into the big chorus. I like the backing keyboard lines in the chorus. Really adds another layer to that section. And I wrote down this probably is the best tune vocally for Mattson. Really gets to show off some great range from the lower range in the verses to like really soaring on the chorus a little bit. Another nice solo section with some slide guitar. Sounds like it's double tracked. I don't know. Danny, did you pick up on that at all? Kind of sounds like it's.
I'd have to listen, bro.
It sounds like it's double tracked a little bit to me, or maybe it's like unison because there's two guitars, right? So, yeah, it's a strong track. See why this was one of the band's most popular tunes. I did watch the music video for this too. I'm sure that was played about 3 times on MTV. Yeah,
I never saw the video,
cool.
actually.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching MTV in '89. I never saw the video. I just heard it played heavy on Rock 107. That was it.
Yeah, so maybe they never. Well, they might have showed it once, maybe, or something. But
yeah, I remember '89. I mean, it was still a lot about image on MTV. You know.
Oh yeah. These guys definitely.
They just did like the cowboy hat and jeans thing. They weren't glam at all. Like there was no glam about their look.
They should have done it in like '91 or whenever Bon Jovi put out Young Guns 2.
Yeah,
that was young. Yeah, that was '91.
Yeah, like
there you go. That's what they should have done.
No glam, really. They got the hair, but like just cowboy image.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll get into In Time, more a mid-paced rocker, which has a nice slower intro with some different guitar lines for the drums kick the song in. Like the verse riff in this one, really complements the vocals, and the bass work stands out quite a bit on this song. Does a lot of runs up the neck in certain sections. Nice pre-chorus and chorus with some band backup vocals. They like doing that, which makes sense because of the time period. A lot of bands were doing that. Solos on this song sound like both guitarists are trading off kind of a little bit to me. It's a little short though. It's not anything crazy. Nice bridge section in here. Taking one from John the Music Nut there with his love for the bridges and Judas Priest. But and they do a nice breakdown section in the song too, which I put in little sub parenthesis things, learning from their Philly brothers Cinderella there. But back to the chorus to round the track off with some more nice lead breaks in between. It's a good song, man. I could have seen that one being a single too. A lot of these songs could have been probably pushed a little bit. Then we get to Four Winds, which is the title track. This one starts off all acoustic with some nice chord progressions and slide work before the vocals join in. Gives like a rootsy blues vibe right out of the gate. And the rhythm section join in with some added piano. And that drum fill comes in after the first chorus, which you might think the band might kick in like full electric, but it never really happens in this track. It kind of stays mellow, and it gets a little bit heavier, a little distortion on the guitars towards the slide solo section. Channeling some of the 70s greats to my ears. I wrote down Dwayne Allman, maybe, something like that. Kind of sounds like an Allman Brothers style slide solo. I like the last section of the song with Bill kind of improvising on the chorus line. They never really go back to the chorus, though. I thought that was kind of cool. He's just kind of like improvising lines over the band playing some great blues, great drum fills, and some slide work until the fade. It's a really good track. And then we get to Fever for Gold. Like this little storytelling song about the California Gold Rush, 1849. I think they even mentioned that in the words, in the lyrics. Like the intro riff of this tune, which I didn't even pick up on Custard Pie, but yeah, totally sounds like Zeppelin for sure. Goes right into the verses nicely, singing about seeking fame and fortunes from the gold. People losing their minds over it, though. It seems like our protagonist in the story gets lucky though in the third verse. I think that's what he's talking about. He says he rocks the vein, so I think that means he struck gold. I don't know. I believe that's what he's talking about. Fun little sing along type track. I like how the drums actually make the sound of it kind of sounds like a pickaxe on the chorus or on the it's in the choruses. Kind of sounds like a pickaxe or something digging into the mountain or whatever. It's a cool track. And then we get to probably my favorite. Love Southbound Train, man. Love the slide guitar intro and how the keyboard and rhythm guitars are in sync with each other. Favorite chorus on this album as well. This is great sing-along material. That's what I wrote down. And I read online that this was the second single, but I don't know if it charted or I couldn't find any charting information. I can't believe this wasn't charted, man. That's
it's great.
It just seems like it would, but maybe not.
It got played very little here. I could tell you that. Like On the Line got played heavy, but Southbound Train, I might have heard it once or twice. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Yeah.
But I wrote down it's kind of like a real shame. Like I said earlier, I think this track would have made a great album opener. I think it would have worked, man. Maybe add a little train coming into the station to start the album out, and then kick into this song. But it goes back into that main riff towards the middle of the song with Bill saying "all aboard," so for some nice, tasty slide work, and back to that great chorus to fade. It's a great track. This one also got a video I watched this week. It's kind of them playing it like a station, and the couple walking on the train tracks, and they run into the train, but it doesn't hit them or anything. But they're just like jamming out. It's pretty cool. Probably my favorite track for sure. This one, or I actually really like Sweet Surrender. The next track, another one of my favorites on here. I wrote down this. Danny, you're the resident Richie Blackmore expert, so kind of reminds me of something Blackmore might have wrote in like the Joe Lynn Turner era of Rainbow. Kind of has that kind of feel, or maybe like All Night Long. It kind of has that kind of double stop kind of notes to it. I think it's probably the most energetic and faster paced tune on this record, with some great unison guitar lines from Gary and Doug, which breaks down into this nice shuffle groove on the drums. And it builds back up into that catchy chorus. It's got a nice big band ending too. It's a great track. We get to Bad Girl. Kick this track off. We get some nice unison guitar blues riffs from the guys before the band lays down a cool groove for the verses, giving plenty of room for the vocals to shine in this one. This one again, I wrote down. I had Ready and Willing on the brain, I guess, on this album. Really sounds like it could have came from that kind of period of Whitesnake. Bad Company, the early period. Like the light touches of slide in the choruses. Tune solos more emotive and melodic than the past few. It's a pretty cool tune. I like the ending riff with the drums, keeping a steady 4-on-4 groove before they go into the chorus for the final time. And then we get to the album ender, Good Lovin'. It's okay. It's not one of my favorites. I kind of think it does lose steam towards the end. I like but it is a little different because it's got some female backing vocals. Kind of adds a little different element that we haven't heard up to this point. I think the guitar lines around the halfway point before the big breakdown with the chorus getting repeated. That's kind of cool. I like that's probably my favorite part of the song. And the guitar lines towards the end, like Sydney mentioned on one of the songs on Still Climbing, it kind of elevates the chorus a little bit towards the end because they kind of repeat the chorus quite a bit at the end, but there's a lot of lead breaks and stuff, so kind of keeps you interested.
Yes.
This I agree with what you guys said. This is a solid hard rock record from '89. Did the guys try and reinvent the wheel here? No, but they get that bluesier edge and and sound out in some great tunes to me. I think maybe a couple of the songs are kind of similar, maybe too much similar, but I think it works for what it was. I just wish they might have. I know it's crazy to think maybe they put an album out in '90 or that's like this with Bill still. I don't really know what happened there, but it's unfortunate that he left, and they did try to make another album, but by '92 or '91, whenever that came out, it was it's pretty much over by then. They got Cinderella syndrome, I guess.
Cinderella syndrome. They needed the videos with the sisters and all that.
Exactly, yeah. Man. Yeah, but I gave this a solid 7.5 out of 10. So
all right.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Good job, bro.
This is the first I think that I'll probably give the highest rating out of everybody on both albums. Usually I'm the critic and I'm the one giving all the low ratings, but here we go. So Ripcord. Kind of sounds like it could have been on Eliminator by ZZ Top with that synth thing. But I know a lot of people don't like that because of the drum machine, but this has real drums, so it kind of has that beat to it. Not vocally at all, but like just the music. And I like the part where he sings down, 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 and then kind of shortly after, there's like these descending leads. So it's kind of it's a really fun song to open with. And then yeah, Mississippi, it's this great slow but like heavy blues song with great vocals. His vocals, yeah, I get what you guys are saying with the Lou Gramm and the Coverdale. What I hear a little bit is actually a lot is Ricky Medlock of Blackfoot.
Okay.
I hear a lot of that, even in the music too. I hear a lot of Blackfoot here and there throughout the album, and yeah, just a great solo in the middle too. It's an amazing song. And then yeah, On the Line, fun upbeat song. I didn't realize. Okay, so this was like the hit song. You said this was like their one hit, I guess. So yeah, it's a fun upbeat song with a very like really fun, memorable chorus. This reminds me a lot of what like Lou Gramm would do on his solo albums. So that sort of stuff. It has more of that feel, more of like a Lou Gramm solo career than as opposed to Foreigner. Has that kind of sound to it for me. And then, yeah, same vocal style as Lou too. He's a mix of Lou, Ricky, a bit of Coverdale. He's just such an amazing singer.
He is a great singer.
He's just a phenomenal singer. And yeah, another great melodic solo in the middle of this one. This sounds like it would be like a crowd participation song live for me. And you said it was the hit, so that makes sense. Yeah, I love that song. And then yeah, In Time, another Lou Gramm style song, which with great singing and fun bluesy guitar soloing. Another song that I can imagine would go off great live. Love this song too. Then we get to yeah, Four Winds. It starts off like a ballad, but then it like builds up to like this kind of mid-tempo blues rocker with the slide guitar. And his voice really helps sell a song like this that may otherwise not be as strong if you had a weaker singer.
Absolutely.
Really, his voice elevates the music big time.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool song for a title track. Usually you would have like a high energy, fast song, you typically for a title track. But yeah, this is a really cool song. Not what you expect to do as a title track, but it works. Great song. And then yeah, Fever for Gold. Another fun, upbeat blues rocker with loads of slide guitar playing, which sounds great. This reminds me of 80s Blackfoot. That kind of has that sound to it. Even his voice, that's who I was pinning it on. Yeah, I was trying to think. I'm like, well, it sounds like Coverdale, but not exactly. It sounds like this guy, and it's Ricky Medlock for me, is who he kind of sounds like a lot like. And then, yeah, Southbound Train, another great song. This should have been a huge hit for me. It sounds like it could be used almost in a movie with that sing-along chorus. It's got a really song with that chorus. You can sing along to that, and it's just a great, catchy song again with amazing vocals. The guy can really sing. So yeah, Sweet Surrender, my favorite on the album. It's just a fast, driving, heavy song. It makes me want to throw my chair across the room, but don't worry, I won't do that. Just a fast, high energy, with razor sharp vocals. His voice is more aggressive on this almost. I feel like a really, great. It's like a great southern rock with amazing guitar playing, and again with the Blackfoot thing. I thought this would have fit well on Marauder or Tomcat. Kind of has that feel to it. It's a really driving, so heavy. It's like metal mixed with southern rock. It's just a good heavy song. And then yeah, Bad Girl, just kind of like a fun boogie song with more fun guitar playing. Really cool riff after the solo, and then just another fun, memorable song. And yeah, Good Lovin' ends with again. I hear Eliminator's ZZ Top on this because it's got that synth kind of thing going. But again, at least on here, the drums are real. They're not programmed drums, so that makes it's better because you get an actual real drummer on here. So, but yeah, it's just still a good, great high energy song, great rocker, and I think it's a good end to for me, it's a perfect album, so I'm giving it a 10.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
A 10.
Cool, man.
Wow.
I like every song, and I'm into every song on the album. It has to be a 10 for me. That's just how,
Yeah. It's a strong album, man. It's nobody can deny that or take that from these guys.
Thank you to Mr. Music Nut for turning me on to these guys.
Because I heard the name, but just never really got around to it. Just one of those bands where I always knew the name, just never bothered to ever listen to it. And then glad you picked this because it's a great album.
It is a great album, bro.
Hey, thanks a lot, Danny. I appreciate it. Yeah, and you were saying, Danny, if it just came out in the early 80s, I'm thinking 79 instead of 89, before MTV.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
When it was all about the music.
That's right.
Then I think this would receive a better fate than it did.
Yeah.
Oh, this band would have been huge. It's a you can't say anything bad about this album. It's got a great production. It's got a great singer. It had great verses and hooks. It was well produced. The guitar player was good. He had a great sound. There's nothing here that this has everything that you'd ever want if you were an A&R guy in the early 80s or late 70s, early 80s. This has got it all of it. And there isn't a dud song on the album. Not one.
I'd say you're spot on about the recording too, which I should have mentioned more. I mean, everything is in its right place.
Oh,
you can
yeah.
hear the instruments very clearly throughout.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. This thing was well produced, well engineered. It's a great sounding album.
Nice.
It is very good. I mean, this was a little more for my taste. It was a little better mixed than a lot of the Cinderella stuff. Like you said, everything is in its place. It's in the stereo spectrum. It might look. I mean, look, we're talking about our ears, but when you're there is dimension to it. You know, you have stuff out front and stuff right behind it, but you got to hear both. And you got the stereo spectrum that's left to right. So instruments are placed here, maybe the kick drum in the middle, the vocals up above the kick drum, and so every sound, like you said, has to have its own space.
Yes.
And this album, it's a real shame it didn't come out when it was supposed to.
Yeah.
It's got it all.
Nice. I'm glad y'all. I'm very happy that you all dig it more than I do. and I recommended it, and I think it's a very good album. But I mean, I was a little curious how you all would think of it. But I'm very happy that you all liked it so much.
Great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is a perfect pick, especially with that whole Philadelphia connection. They toured together and same producer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a great choice. And it was perfect that it was good that you won the trivia because you're on the show. So, actually, that worked out perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, anything that you want to plug for your channel?
Oh, thank you. I have a channel called the Music Nut Program. My channel's a little different than a lot of our family of channels. I talk a lot about stuff that I'm really into. I like to say that the channel's an extension of me and my musical tastes.
Nice.
So I'm not always so I talk about rock and metal, but I talk about a lot of other genres as well. I'm slowly putting more of an emphasis on independent artists. Right now, I'm doing a weekly series on Chris Whitley. And Chris Whitley passed away 20 years ago this year. And he has a very rich catalog of music, which he recorded for 15 years. And he was a genre jumper, but he did it all with passion and excellent songs. And that series is not even halfway through. I'll be finishing that one in mid-April. In the meantime, I do a lot of historical content, like next Saturday, March 1, 2025. I'll be talking about my 10 favorite albums from 1985. And then the first Saturday of April, I'm doing my top 10 from 1995. And then I'm going to go 2005 in May, 2015 in June. I also have my own original shows. I have a show called The Album After, which I focus on an album that was released after a blockbuster album for a particular band or artist. And I focus a lot on a lot of bands who had their peak success in the 1990s. I also have a show called The Album War, which I will have 2 or more albums, regardless of the genre of the artist, and I will talk about the 2 albums with the same title. So, and then I will talk about each album, what I like about the albums, what I'm not so crazy about, and then I'll give my rating of who wins the album more. Like, for instance, my last show for the album war was, it can be too many, but I do have one coming up. That's going to be 4.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Just going to be 4. And it was actually one that I was on my mind, but then 2 of the people who watch my show a lot, hello, Eric, hello, Jake, they actually came up with it, but not together. They did this independently. They actually came up with 3 of the albums I'm going to talk about.
Nice.
And I picked the 4th one. So that's going to be
Oh.
one coming up. But okay, I did the Black Album, though.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did Metallica versus The Damned versus Prince.
Wow. Yeah.
And meanwhile, I had people saying, you could have put Jay-Z in there. I didn't realize Jay-Z had a Black Album, too. So that's a lot of stuff that I do. I'm also doing a show called Artist Spotlights, where I'm going to talk about an independent artist that I've seen live, and I have a lot of their stuff, and just talk about their music, talk a little bit about how they are live and how their albums are and things like that. There's a lot of album reviews, but I am going to be putting more focus on bands I've seen live. I still go to a lot of concerts, so I'm going to talk more about that. And a lot of concerts I see are independent artists. So that's my channel on that show. And my shows are pretty short. I have not gone over 28 minutes yet.
Ooh.
Yeah, my shows are
We're like an hour and 10 minutes.
we're an hour 41.
I know.
Like, you'll see me on my friends' channels, on long channels, but if it's my show, it's gonna be short.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not always gonna be the case. I'm gonna have guests on eventually, and then I'll have more in-depth discussions and longer shows. So there you go.
Yeah.
Great stuff, John.
Yeah. So
Thank
check
you.
out. It's there. It's on the. If you scroll down on the homepage, there's a list of all the other channels of people that have appeared on the show. So you can also go to theirs and view theirs, and John's is on there. So yeah, check that out. Yeah, it's done some cool stuff, like the Thin Lizzy Thursdays one. I watched all that. That was cool too.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, so give a shout out to that. And yeah, so I'd like to thank John for joining today, Danny as always, and Logan, of course, is always here. And tomorrow we're gonna be playing. Oh my God, Logan, what was the band?
ooh, I forgot. You're
Oh yeah,
asking
we're
wrong
doing one of
guy.
we're doing one of our music hangouts for our States to State Obscurities and First Listens show tomorrow. We'll be playing all 3 albums by a band called Wasted Theory from Delaware.
Okay.
Came out like in the mid to late 2000s, and they're all like, it's categorized as like stoner metal. That's what it's categorized as. But yeah, so it's just good heavy metal. But yeah, it's a great band. So we're looking forward to play those 3 albums. It'll be fun just to hang out.
No smoking necessary.
No smoking necessary. Yeah, you don't have to be a stoner to enjoy it.
Nice.
But yeah, everyone, anyways, thanks for watching. So yeah, next week we'll be back on Saturday. We're gonna do the 2 Tom Kiefer solo albums, but we actually have an interview lined up with a singer of a band called Valhalla. We played their music on a previous State to State show from North Dakota. So he'll be joining us next Saturday. So there won't be a Tom Kiefer solo album show. That'll be the following Saturday. And then once we're done with that, we'll be starting a John Sykes catalog, starting all the way at the beginning with Tigers, working all the way up to his solo album. So it's probably a good, I'd say probably about 10 albums maybe total with everything. So yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that'll be fun. And so thanks everybody for watching, and all our guests as always. And see you tomorrow.
Take care, John.
Take care, Danny.